Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. We're finally back on the air. It's FPC Radio Live. We've been off about a week and a half. As you can see, that is not John. John is still recovering from eye surgery. I mean, he kept going on and on and on about how great Aaron Rodgers was as a quarterback. So I insisted he go and get his eyes checked, and what do you know? He needed to get him fixed. So hopefully our guy John will be back tomorrow, and I can ask him about what his new eyesight has told him so far. But no, we're very happy to have our guy, Mr. Jim Berenger, on, who usually Jim, he joins us when we want to talk hockey. But there's really nothing going on in the world of hockey. So
absolutely not.
Yeah, nothing at all. Like crickets. It's amazing. It's amazing how that sport for several weeks just shuts down. Like it goes from fever pitch, mad, frantic free agent news for about a week, and then nothing.
It's crazy, right? Like the biggest thing I think right now is because camps are getting ready, turn up next week. NHL media, European tours going on right now. You see those things starting to pop up. Big question marks still around Trevor Zegras and Evan Bouchard and Alexis Lafreniere, some RFAs. When are we going to see extensions for Matthews, Nylander? What about Hellebuck and Scheifele in Winnipeg? And I think those are the big things. But like you said, the sport actually shuts down for about 3 to 4 weeks. There's things that happen here and there. Like we saw the Brandon Hagel signing really just come out of nowhere yesterday. Those things happen. But for the most part, players are training. GMs want to take some time off. Guys want to decompress after a crazy season. It's not like the NFL where it just consistently goes on like 52 weeks of the year. It really does.
Well, plus, you got guys too that, are from all around the globe too, and I'm not saying that's not true to football. I think that the scope of where people come from is much more limited, where you have people heading home to other countries to enjoy limited time with their family. So it's okay. It's all right. It gives us a break because the timing's okay. Jim, I almost called you John. See, that's how used to doing the show is, I'm doing the show with John, but fortunately I'll cut myself some slack because both you guys' name starts with a J.
That's
so
true.
it can get a little confusing.
That's true.
But the good thing is, there's a couple things coming up. One, college football. Two, the NFL season. So
yes.
there is plenty. We're not going to talk about the Yankees 9-game losing streak.
They suck, period.
Well, maybe we could emphasize the fact that they suck, and it's it's quite enjoyable personally. I find it quite enjoyable to watch them just plummet. And I hope. There's no person that's a bigger fan than Aaron Boone than I am, because I want him to remain the Yankees manager for the rest of my time on this earth. That would make me so happy just to keep him out there. Just do the same thing over and over and over again. Where Jim, we're getting to the point now where, like, if you go back to that Seinfeld era, right when George got hired, and Jerry asked the question, it's amazing they haven't won a pennant in 15 years. Well, guess what?
They're getting close.
We're almost at that point again.
They're getting close. Look, this Yankees team really needed to be retooled and rebuilt the right way. Cashman, his best days are behind him. The Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009. They haven't won a pennant since 2009 too. I think that was the last time they won the American League Championship. So, they've been there great, but they haven't plugged holes. Pitching is still bad. They relied too much on the home run. Boone relies too much on analytics. He's worse than Girardi was. And this team has yet to see the fact that all the excuses that they used at the beginning of the year were not excuses. The team really wasn't built well. It starts with Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman should have been gone 3 years ago. Aaron Boone, both of them should have been gone last year as long as they kept them. And Hal Steinbrenner is just sitting in mediocrity saying, oh, well, it's just good enough to get in the playoffs. No, it's not. Not when you're the owner of the New York Yankees, it's not. You need to be, it's world championship or bust. That's how your dad built that team.
they're
If George
definitely closer to.
Steinbrenner was alive, all these guys would have been fired.
Well, let's just put it this way: they're looking like, or right now, set to finish in last place for the first time in quite some time. So it's definitely looking closer to bust, which, like I said, I'm perfectly okay with. And look, I understand the Red Sox aren't having the best season in the world either, but there is some joy in watching a team that was, I mean, expectations were very high for this team. And, again, there's still
whose expectations? Because my expectations didn't see this team as a World Series team
well,
or a playoff team.
Well, that's the problem, though. Part of it is the Yankee name, so the expectations are always going to be high. But kind of to what you're alluding to, they're still building a team like it's 2009, 2008, 2007, where it's like, okay, we're going to get these guys that maybe. Maybe they're known for the long ball, but it's not. The game's not about the long ball now. And unfortunately, fortunately for me, the Yankees are still living in that era. I mean, it wasn't. Maybe it's not as satisfying as when they acquired Kevin Brown and he subsequently broke his hand by punching the wall.
Funny.
That was some sweet satisfaction. But they're plummeting to last place certainly is something. And look, on a serious note too, if you're a Yankees fan, yeah, I mean, you should be pissed. I mean, the amount of money you spend, what you do to go get these guys and the hype that
or don't get those guys or don't spend the money
yeah.
to do it. I think that's the biggest issue with the Yankee fans right now is that Hal Steinbrenner is so worried about this luxury tax. That's something that his dad didn't care about.
Yeah.
It's like, we have to operate under not spending to the luxury tax. Dude, you're the Yankees. You just spend money.
You just gave Aaron Judge that long-term contract. You think he's, look, he's not going to regret the money, but I'm sure he wants to win.
100% wants to win.
Like, why would you want to stick around in an organization that looks like it's rudderless right now and looks like it's going to be a while before even if they start doing everything right tomorrow, it's going to be a while, I think, before this team rises back up to legitimate contender, because again, they have a lot of issues, not just, management wise, leadership, but like just, I mean, players, roster, everything. I mean, this is a tear down
overhaul.
Yeah, go find yourself a George Costanza and figure out how you can get Bonds and Griffey for very little, because that's about the only thing you can do right now to kind of turn this around for them. So, anyways, we weren't even planning on talking about the Yankees, but there we go. 5 minutes gone. But I do want to bring up a couple things. One, I wonder how much you care. I know it's kind of, I think there's two ends of the spectrum here. There's, okay, it's a little fun to watch the Ravens and this, 24 game preseason winning streak. No one really takes it that seriously. On the other hand, there are people that tend to take this a little bit more seriously than it should. The Dan Orlovskis of the world, the ones who think it's actually impressive. No, there's nothing impressive about a 24-game winning streak in the preseason. It's interesting. It's a fun, talking point throughout what is generally a pretty dull stretch of football, because it's like, all right, well, okay, I want to get to a real game. So from that standpoint, I'm not being like a Scrooge here and being like, this is so stupid, but depending on how you reacted to this. Now, you said it off the air, and I'll give you credit for it now. I don't want to steal your thunder. It was an exciting preseason game. I mean, look, it was fun. It came down to the last second. I mean, the Commanders were certainly into it. Again, that's something you can, depending on what kind of mood you're in, you can fall on either side. That was, kind of cool for the moment, or it was kind of silly because it was a preseason game. But when you also think about the fact that, like, a lot of those players, again, this is their career right now. I mean, a lot of them don't make it past, training camp cuts, or they have a very limited NFL career. So maybe this moment is going to be the peak of their excitement. But when it comes to the Ravens streak, I want to know where you land on this, because when it comes to impressiveness and should it be something that, like, John Harbaugh is this because, look at no, absolutely not. There's absolutely nothing positive that for the Ravens that comes out of this 24-game winning streak. It's the preseason. no one cares. When it comes to fun, though, I'm okay with it being kind of like jokingly celebrated and just being like, okay, 24 games, that's cool and all that stuff. So
Yeah, for me, I mean, look, does 24 preseason wins in a row mean anything? Absolutely not. No one's ever won the preseason. And if you think you won the preseason, go
well,
ask the
there's a
Detroit
few teams
Lions.
that have won preseasons before.
Right, but and how many teams went 0-16 after they won the preseason? So that's where that is for me. Look, it made the game interesting. It made you stay to the end, right? Like, oh, is Washington going to do it? It's such a close game. Are the Ravens going to pull this one out, make it 25? For entertainment factor, I get where Orlovsky's coming from because it makes the preseason exciting. It's like, oh, the Ravens going to lose this week. Okay, fine. For that week when the Ravens play, the rest of the preseason doesn't matter. 24 wins in the preseason doesn't matter. Like you said, for certain guys who are playing the preseason, yeah, it's their career. They're trying to make a team. Half the starters don't even play. In fact, none of the big names played outside of Flowers. That was it for the Ravens. And Melvin Gordon was trying to make the team, but they have like so many running backs. The Ravens do. I'm not sure he even makes it, even though he's got that 1-year deal. I think the Ravens could be better off without him in the backfield. Tom Monken's offense looks great, but again, I want to see it with Lamar Jackson. I only saw it with Josh Johnson. Look, Josh Johnson maybe make it a case to be a backup there in Baltimore. He understands it. But hey, 24 games in a preseason. To me, I was looking up some stuff. I know we don't talk hockey a lot here, and when we do, we usually do. The World Juniors are coming up in December. It's ways away. Does anybody remember that 54-game winning streak by Sweden in the round robin?
No.
I mean, I was pretty impressive. They won 1 gold medal.
Yeah.
When they did that. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's a great number. It's really impressive that they won all those round robin games. Really was. They won 1 gold medal out of all that.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm pretty sure during this entire streak that the Ravens have won 1 playoff game.
So exactly. Yeah. So does it matter? No.
Well, and like that's what and again that's what's funny. And look, I'm gonna use this opportunity because I'm going through some I said it on Twitter yesterday, and it's becoming a little bit tougher for me. But the closer we get to the actual start of the NFL season each and every day, it becomes more and more a reality that Tom Brady will not be playing football this year, and it's kind of painful for me. It's going to take a little while to adjust, but I'm going to take this opportunity to go back and say, well, it kind of puts into perspective how really impressive it was that the Patriots won 21 consecutive games over the course of 2 seasons, and they actually did this. They won technically. They've had obviously an 18-game winning streak inside of 2007, but over 2003 to 2004, they won 21 straight games, including the playoffs, which is crazy to think because it's football and that's a season and a half straight of winning football games. But like 24 games in the preseason, I'll pass. So
no, I like the streaks. The numbers that like mean more to me in the NFL are like, when you bring up the Patriots and like, they rarely lose games back to back, right? If they lose a game, they rarely lose back to back games. I think that streak came to an end finally. But like Andy Reid coming off a bye, like the dude has lost like 2 games or something. Like that kind of stuff is impressive. 24 games in the preseason is not impressive.
You know what's impressive? I'm going to use this opportunity to segue into another another football league, but I'm going to use a different way to do it. You know what's impressive is apparently the the directing job or producing job Urban Meyer did apparently on this Florida documentary that came out recently. Now, you and I neither of us have actually seen it yet.
I've yet to see it. Yeah,
I'm planning on seeing it because, again, I just want to kind of, I guess, reinforce what other people have said. But according to a lot of people that have watched this absolutely covers nothing. Like, I think there's like again, I'm going to bring another Seinfeld reference up. There was a blurb about Aaron Hernandez. Let's put it that way. Like,
that kind of makes sense. I mean, that kind of makes sense. But
blurb about Aaron Hernandez, nothing beyond that. And I think it was something to do with Tim Tebow. Nothing about the Pouncies, nothing about the general dysfunction around it. It was more like, oh, look at all the good times and forget about all the dysfunction that kind of made this team the fascinating team. The reason people are fascinating with that Florida team is, yes, the success, but like, Urban Meyer's heart attack. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Like his heart
Yeah.
problem. The Cam Newton being on that team at one point, and then it's the arrest that went under the rug, that got swept under the rug, and all this stuff going on with it. And according to a lot of people, it touched on none of that. And that to me is like, okay, it's not really a documentary. Then it's kind of a puff piece.
Yeah.
And well, not surprising, Urban Meyer had a very unspectacular stint in the NFL recently, and I think he's trying to get that off of him.
Yeah, well, guess what? He brought it on himself by
Mhm.
not allowing Trevor Lawrence to be the Trevor Lawrence that everybody saw he was in college in Clemson. That's Urban Meyer's fault for trying
Mhm.
to be like a pro guy when he was a college guy. And he should have just ran that college system that he did so well in Ohio State and Florida, and I believe Utah as well. He came over from there. Um, so look, am I surprised? No. I mean, I think some of the best documentaries are 30 for 30. I remember the U.
Mhm.
They covered a ton of stuff in the U documentary, that 30 for 30. I think both were like 2 hour specials. They covered like all those teams, like the arrests, like everything that
Mhm.
happened off the field. Like that's the kind of stuff that's really cool. Like you said, this Florida team, there was so much going on with that Florida team when they won 2 out of 3 national championships. They lost in the SEC title game in one year. I mean, I would just be interested to see it. Again, I'm going to see it and probably be reinforced by what other people have said about Urban Meyer. And look, am I shocked that that happened? No. Do I think Urban Meyer wants to get back to coaching? Yes. This quote unquote health problem that he has, he might legitimately have a health problem that knocked him out of Ohio State because he was under all this pressure to win. But it seems like he always wants to come back and coach somewhere. So I would not be surprised if Urban Meyer's name comes up in the college rounds somewhere at the end of this season, just because if he's trying to rebuild his image, no one wants what happened in the NFL to be around their team.
Well, look, and plus the name's still the name, and I it. I mean, good for him because again, he's built his name. Despite what he does, he still has that name equity, I guess.
Well, I got a question for you
Yeah.
before we get into the college football stuff. What about, I was very impressed by Eric Bieniemy on Monday night with the Commanders. This dude should be a head coach somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, well, it's a quarterback-driven league, so unfortunately, the coordinators are always going to be, and in the case of Bieniemy, he's also attached to the hip to Andy Reid, who's an offensive mind. So, I think the last people to get credit are the coordinators. So they look at that and say, well, of course it's Andy Reid's offense. Well, of course it's because it's Patrick Mahomes. Well, he did well with Alex Smith.
Right.
He's looking. I mean, I'm not gonna. Excuse me. I got to see some more. I'm not saying he's not capable of it, but there is some, especially for coordinators. I think there's a little bit of, we want to see you fly without, not saying he needed the support, but without those guys. And whether that's fair or not, I think it's just the reality. So yeah, I was impressed certainly, and I think this command. And here's the thing: the Commanders' offense has the potential. Like there is potential for him to really take this offense to the next level. So the opportunity, and I think probably why one of the reasons why he saw it as a good landing spot for himself. So I liked what I saw. I'm eager to see it in the regular season. I'm eager to see it over the course of an entire season, because as important as the game plan in it is also the adjustments throughout the year and how to keep that offense fresh and still attacking at the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And I mean, look, we see it, it was referenced Todd Monken coming from Georgia, the offensive
Mhm.
coordinator, coming, bringing that style now to the Ravens, letting Lamar. And I think that I was listening to something yesterday. Lamar was saying about how, I think it was Monday night on the countdown. He was saying, yeah, Todd Monken's just letting me call the plays now at the
Mhm.
line. And I think that's going to really help the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. And I think that team, even though everybody says it's Cincinnati's division, I would not be shocked the Ravens make it very, very difficult for the Bengals to win that division.
No, I went down and look, even I'm not trying, don't sleep on the Steelers either.
Right. No, Steelers. Kenny Pickett, man, look out.
It's going to be a very interesting division. And again, I mean, Deshaun Watson's a wild card. Do I think he was overhyped coming into Cleveland? Yes. Do I think he's like, my opinion of Deshaun Watson outside of obviously the non-football stuff that we're,
yeah, we'll leave that to the side for now.
Strictly football. I don't believe, no matter the situation, I don't believe elite quarterbacks can go 4-12.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Maybe that's too simple of a thought. Maybe it is, and I know it's not as simple as that. But I was told that Deshaun Watson at one point was Brady-esque in how he played. You know what I mean? Like the poise and the potential, and he has so much talent because he threw for all these yards. But he threw for all these yards in a season, and this is why I was never impressed with the Jameis Winston stuff. Is I don't care if you throw 5,000 yards in a 7-9 season, because all that tells me is you were playing a lot from behind.
Exactly.
Of course you had to throw the ball, and in Jameis Winston's case, you threw 30 interceptions one year, so of course you got.
That's why the Bucks brought in Brady. So
yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden, well, surprise, surprise, but that's a discussion for another day. I mean, I'm always down for having that discussion, obviously, if you follow me on Twitter, but that's not for here right now. But the point is, I was never really high on Deshaun Watson, certainly not high enough to give him that guaranteed contract. I don't think anyone, even his fans, agreed that he was worth that much. So for me, I'm like, okay, good luck, Cleveland. So are they going to be better? Yeah, I do believe he's going to be better now with a most of a season under his belt and kind of full off season and all that stuff. I just don't know how much better the Brown. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
No, I hear
he's an elite quarterback in this
league.
No,
I don't think so either.
Before the 2.5 years of not playing football. Now I certainly don't believe it now. But needless to say, that division is going to be pretty competitive. So before we wrap things up, we're going to wrap things up here in just a few minutes. I do want to ask you, because you wrote an article on fullpresscoverage.com, a couple key storylines coming up for college football, because it is this weekend.
Week 0's here, everybody.
Week zero. So I guess, of those storylines, obviously, I think the one that sticks out the most is obviously Georgia. Is Georgia going to three-peat? And I guess what's your gut saying? What do you, if you were a betting man, Jim, if you were a betting man, like our guy.
If I was a betting man, I might not. I mean, I've said it places. I mean, I think Georgia has the potential to three-peat. Do I think it's going to happen? No, just because history and question marks. Again, they lost 10 players to the NFL. Again, college is different. You can bring in great recruiting classes every year, but no more Stetson Bennett. Carson Beck's the starting quarterback there. Todd Monken's in the NFL. But again, we saw Nick Saban lose coordinators, and they've been fine. Georgia's the class of the SEC until proven otherwise, right? Their toughest game is going to be Tennessee. Their schedule's weak because they were supposed to play Oklahoma this year, but because of realignment, that got kicked off the schedule. So they really have an easy schedule. I mean, they can do it. Their two toughest games will be the SEC title game in Tennessee, I think. And again, if they get to the playoff, anything's going to be possible. I think Kirby Smart can do it. I think the Dogs have the potential to do it. But history says the team usually comes up short. The last team that had a chance to do this was USC 2005-06 with against Vince Young's Texas Longhorns in an epic national championship game. That was the best ones. Yeah. Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, that USC team. I think Lendell White was still there too. Yep. That team, Pete Carroll went for it on 4th down. If he gets it, the USC Trojans have won 3 straight national championships. But they didn't, and the rest is history, as they say. So, and by the way, the last team to ever do it was the Minnesota Golden Gophers in 1934, 35, 36. Oof. So, I mean, this is considering like all the big powerhouse teams in college football, like Alabama, you thought maybe they'd do it. Nebraska had chances to do it. Miami, you would think, like the U, okay, yeah. But again, remember, there was back then, it was just the AP poll, and then it became BCS, and they were split national champions. Like if you go back into it, can Georgia do it? Yeah, they can do it. They have the team to do it. Will they? It's going to be tough because I know Ohio State's there, Michigan's there. They got to get through the Big Ten themselves. Look, to me, the most fascinating thing is going to be like these conferences before like they go away, right? So the Pac-12, this is the final year of what we know of the Pac-12, right? Next year, there's 4 teams in the Pac-12 if it exists. And, USC, you have USC, obviously. Everybody's going to talk about Caleb Williams, and it's a discussion for another day of whether he's a Sunday guy or not. To me right now, he's a great player, great gifts. Right now, he has a lot to work on to be a Sunday guy, and I've watched a lot of his games going back to Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley's team is great offensively. Defensively, they have a lot of issues, and that was their problem in Oklahoma when he was the head coach there. So if they can clean that up, yes, USC can win the Pac-12, but Utah's still there. Washington's good. Oregon's good. So the Pac-12 is interesting. If you guys stay up late, watch Pac-12 football. There's a lot of good football there. Big 12 is going to be good. Is Texas back? Oh, is this the final year? Can Texas win look, they got Oklahoma still. Cincinnati's coming in. Kansas State's really good. TCU's still there. Baylor's always. So I like those things, those little things. And then obviously everybody's going to talk about Deion. Like, what is he going to bring to Colorado? Yeah. Those are things to me because I believe their first game's against TCU. So that'll be a fun game to watch. USC, I believe.
He's coming off his his little bit of a health issue that he's, had there, with the foot problem and everything, right. There was at one point they thought they might have to amputate his foot, right. Which
exactly.
That's not the Deion that, this is prime time, one of the best defensive backs in the history of the league. You know what I mean? So but yeah, and look, I think, some people, I think you either love or hate him. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like
exactly.
I think some people love he seems like he is who he is. You know what I mean? He's the same guy that we've seen on he's still brash and a talker and but that's who he is. That's why he's great. So I think it's going to be interesting to see him on the obviously he's been on the college football landscape for some time, but obviously in a bigger program now. But look, I'm surprised, going back to what you said about not, I would have sooner guessed that the Minnesota Golden Gophers won 3 NCAA men's ice hockey
yeah, exactly,
championships in a row, let alone football. But it is pretty incredible to think that it's been that 90 years almost since
since
team has done that. So
I mean, like the big game this weekend, obviously, is Notre Dame, Navy, and Ireland. Like that's like the big game on NBC. Mm-hmm. Like everybody's gonna be talking about that one. Yeah, USC plays, but okay, big deal. Like they play San Jose State. Like okay, they should win that game. They should kill. I mean, there's not the biggest game is Ireland, and if Notre Dame and Navy weren't playing in it, I don't think anybody would really care about what the games were this weekend.
Right.
So, but like the following week is when really everything gets going. A lot of big matchups, and Florida State and LSU again. They're gonna fight. And they're going to play. That could determine a lot for LSU's season, especially. I know it's non-conference, so it doesn't matter. They still have a chance to go to the SEC title game with Alabama there. And you think about it. Brian Kelly's second year at LSU, they're going to be a lot better. There's question marks around Georgia's quarterback, Alabama's quarterback, stuff we haven't said before. It's going to be a very interesting season. And then again, the ACC, look, they have that TV deal that runs through 2036. I know Florida State's talking about, we want to get out. Well, if they would, they could, but they're tied to that contract, and I don't think any conference wants to pay $120 million over the lifetime of that contract to get them out. So I think they're stuck, and it's going to be an interesting year in the final year of the 4-team playoff before we go to 12 teams. By the way, that 12-team playoff is supposed to have 5 automatic conferences, like automatic bids to get in. I think they're already going to change it for next year.
Well, it's starting to shape up like more of a professional league playoff system where it's like, okay, if you win your conference, you get a guaranteed home playoff game. And look, I think, it's funny to think we're so far removed from the BCS system and everything like that. Like, you know what I mean? Where it was like that was such a point of contention for a while, where it was like, oh, you can't, you just have people deciding these championship games. We need a playoff. We need a playoff. Now we're expanding the playoffs. Now we're beyond that. We've outgrown.
But we still have people deciding the playoff.
No,
Right?
it's
It
true.
was a computer.
Yeah.
The computer told you who the two best teams were based on record and all this other stuff. That was the problem everybody had with the BCS. Oh, well, there's no human factor.
Yeah.
But now we put the human factor in, and we still get mad because, wait a minute, what matters on the field most, but we're still going to put teams in that don't do anything. And again, you're not supposed to, like, the Simpsons thing, like when Bart writes on the chalkboard, I should write this every year. I will not get upset at the first rankings. Like, I will not get upset because, yes, all this stuff, all this criteria matters, but it doesn't matter. If it's a true playoff, the best teams with the best records get in, and that's how you determine it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And look, I mean, we see it. Look, we see it on debates on social media all the time. The human element isn't necessarily a good thing in some cases. And when it comes to consensus sports opinions, it certainly is not that. So, yeah, look, we'll see how this matters, but for the time being, we'll celebrate the last year of the 4-team playoff and go from there. So
exactly, and go from there because there's a lot to dissect into this 4-team playoff because again, if Notre Dame has a good year, what's going to happen? Do they get in? Are two teams from a conference going to get in? The Big Ten East, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, like what's going to happen? There's a lot of stuff to go around, and it's what makes college football so much fun. And it's funny. We're talking about like all these conference realignments and how to fix it. We should have never. Adults in the room needed to get in the room and realize, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we should just make a football league, and maybe we should just make a basketball league and let the rest of the sports be regionalized. And, oh, hey, wait a minute. That's kind of how it is now. But we all did it for the money because college football and basketball rules everything. So, again, look, hockey has its own division and conferences and regions. Think all these other sports that are getting affected by the realignment. I think the NCAA needs to be like, look, okay, we're going to keep you in your regions, but football and basketball, we're going to keep you in
It's
there.
just such a different beast compared to those other sports. And by
the way, before we get out of here, I mentioned Evan Bouchard off the top. Bridge deal, 2 years, $3.9 million a season.
There you go. Breaking news here on FBC Radio Live. Yeah. And I think we're going to one more time, 3 times reference George Costanza and say, hey, we're going to leave on a high note right there and say, thank you very much, everyone. I think John should be back tomorrow, but if not, Jim's going to be joining us quite a bit, I'm sure, during the season, hockey season, football season. We're gonna really beat him to death when it comes to getting content out of him. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us, Jim. Thank you, everyone listening. We will be back. I will be back for sure tomorrow. And then we will start gearing up for NFL, college, and everything in between because it's some pretty good time of the year, and Yankees suck. So thank you, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.